Ben Nash here. I'm a co-founder at XY Advisor and founder of financial advice business Pivot Wealth. My business baby I started from scratch a bit over 6 years ago. In that time, I've leveraged some of the learnings of the XY community to scale the business and become one of the better known financial advice businesses for high income accumulators. You can join me each Tuesday as I have the privilege of interviewing some amazing people where I'll selfishly be able to continue my personal journey to improve every aspect of my advice process, and hopefully you can learn a few things on the journey as well. Jump over to xyadvisor.com if you haven't signed up already to share and learn from other advisors, or simply download the app.
Zurich is the proud partner supporting this episode. As one of Australia's largest life insurers, Zurich encourages the promotion of positive conversations leading to a more sustainable future for life insurance. Committed to championing financial advice through education and research-led market insights.
Hey guys, Ben Nash from the XY Advisor crew, and today I'm pumped to be here with Will Hamilton. Will is the managing partner at Hamilton Wealth Partners. They're a Victoria-based advice firm with clients around Australia. Been around for almost a decade and known for their client experience and service. I'm keen to pick Will's brain about what's happened through the evolution of the business and some of the lessons learned along the way. Will, thanks for joining us, buddy.
No, thank you, Ben.
Mate, it's great to be chatting. I think if I think about the advice industry and what we do and how we do it, I think that there are a lot of things that are unchanged, but there has been a lot of change that we've experienced over the last decade or so. So I thought maybe a good place to start before we get into the evolution for you guys specifically is how is your tell us a bit about the business story, how it came about and how it's grown over the last 9 years or so.
Yeah, look, 9 years ago, we just hung out a shingle, to be honest, and just started. It's always been from day one a firm where we only look after, and our license only lets us look after sophisticated investors. So we have not looked after retail investors. However, we have subsequently, about 6 months ago, with Open Invest, rolled out an online solution called HWP Invest, because one of the things was some of our clients wanted a solution for friends and family. So that's been an online solution that we have rolled out recently. But look, when you hang out your shingle, I think there's a lot of learnings from it, because you start off with what I always called the low-hanging fruit, and then you probably get a couple of years where it is a little bit more difficult than people envisage, because people want to see if you're going to stick around. They want to see if you're going to make it and how you've gone with those clients. So then after about 3 years, it's amazing how it builds and it starts to build quite nicely. And in fact, the last sort of 3 years have been very good for our business. We've looked last year at just over 30% new client growth. That's in revenue terms. In what was a very difficult environment. But yes, we've worked hard. And I think the one thing that we've done, which I think has been very important, is we say we're good at what we do, or we're proud of what we do because we're proud of what we don't do. So we're very singular and make sure that excellence is what we do to the best of our ability, but we don't do everything.
Yeah, look, I think it's increasingly become, it was difficult to begin with, but increasingly with the changes, your regulation, compliance standards, and all of the things around that, as well as what people expect to be all things to all people. So I've found for us that we do work with a broad range of clients, but we have a really specific solution that we offer, and knowing that is what we do and we don't do those other things, it helps in a lot of areas. Clarity for clients, I think clarity for team, onboarding team, especially the growing business onboarding team, not having 50 different processes that people need to work towards or systems to manage as well. So what would you say have been the biggest changes that have come about in terms of how you do what you do, or what you're delivering over the evolution of your business?
As I've mentioned, we're our license is for sophisticated investors only, but we've always taken a view that we want to meet what are the industry standards. So everyone is FSCA compliant. Even though we're not on the FAR, we don't need to be, but we think that's important. And there's no doubt that the one change in the last decade has been regulation.
Mm.
And there's no doubt about it. It's increased. I was even on the FSCA board for 2 years. So can't be blamed for the introduction of anything, but I was there to try and along with Louise Lackenby and Deb Kent, we were working hard to try and put the views of the advice industry forward. But we were 3 out of 9 people, and there's no doubt regulation has increased remarkably. I think there's still a lot of uncertainty, and I think that's there's an enormous amount of uncertainty on the regulation front, and that the industry needs clarity.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I'm not an expert in the regulation, and I've always tried to set up our business in a way that we're get ahead of some of the changes that I had seen potentially coming in around like no insurance commission since day one, which has meant that things like that have meant that we haven't had to respond to the changes that have been pushed onto us, but more get in front of it. But I would agree with you totally that there is still a lot of uncertainty there. I think the fact that ASIC have just opened up a review into some of the unintended consequences of the legislation that's been put in place is testament to that. I think that in my view, a lot of the changes have been well intentioned, and I think some of them are helpful to varying degrees. But yeah, I get that it is hard, and it's even harder when you're having to spend time as a business to take a view on things, and then still having that sort of fear of the unknown there. So I think anything they can do to tighten that up is going to be helpful for everybody, and hopefully they can achieve the mandate of this particular review and maybe bring down some of those costs to serve to actually make advice at all levels more accessible. I think with declining advisor numbers, it means that we've got, even with the same demand, but I think that the demand is increasing as well. That there's more people out there. I think the majority of advisors, you want to help more people and be able to do that and do it profitably in a sustainable way for your business, so you can be around to help people for the long term. But it's been huge, especially the last 2 years in particular, I would say, for us in terms of all the extra requirements and time cost in particular that goes along with that.
I agree.
I know you guys are known for your client experience, and I know that you've picked up a few good gongs around that. I'm keen to hear, how did that come into your focus so firmly, and what does that journey look like for you guys?
Yeah, look, it's part of our DNA. We call it the HWP way. So it's one of the things that it's a very important thing, client experience. We don't call it client service because we think it's great and that it is about a client experience. Look, we explain the service that we will provide to anyone, but what we try to do is exceed on that. So it's not just about, we're lucky because, being a service for sophisticated investors, we've only got 90 clients. So we're not a business which has hundreds of clients. So the personal service and the personal touch is definitely there. We've also done a lot of thought leadership things. So, during the COVID, they were via webinars, but, we're back to live events. We've got John Wiley presenting to our clients next month up in Sydney. We've got Mark Burgess, the former CEO of the Future Fund. We just had David Smorgan. We get him to talk about the link between family, communication and wealth to every client. So as new ones come on, he talks to them. We do about 6 of these live events a year with thought leaders. Last year, we managed to do one from memory. That was with Olivia Worth, who's the head of loyalty at Qantas, talking about the future of travel. So these type of things are really important. We're never selling anything. We never will sell anything, but it's about providing thought leadership. And, also for prospective clients to come along, we will never talk about a client, but if you turn up and you see existing clients there, you can see who are the clients of our firm. Yeah. And, like at the David Smorgan one, we had someone who was a prospective client, and he really quizzed a lot of existing clients about our service proposition, what we're like. And in that service proposition, we've learnt from organisations that we've been to their offices, we've spoken to the executives, such as Four Seasons Hotels. They're based in Toronto, and everyone knows what the expectation is. And as Four Seasons say, everyone gets the it, but what they need to do is give the wow, and that's part of what we talk about. So everybody that joins gets a book, The Business Principles of Four Seasons Hotels by Isidore Sharp, and that explains this. And Four Seasons have been small leaders in little things like, they were the first people to put shampoos in the rooms. Make sure you've always got a comfortable bed in a hotel. If you go to a hotel and it's not on a comfortable bed, well, you're stuffed, aren't you? Back in when there was what they called the Grand Hotels of London, they were the first people to let you wear jeans and you didn't have to wear a jacket and tie. So these are the sort of things where we've learned about. And then more recently, we've talked to Miele Australia. They sell a refrigerator which costs $25,000 and it keeps your milk cold. Guess what? You can go to JB Hi-Fi and you can get one for a Fisher and Paykel for under $1,000. And guess what? It keeps your milk cold. So if you're going to sell something which is worth $25,000 and it keeps your milk cold, you've got to have a great experience around that. And they're the sort of things we've learned. We're now talking to another organisation about this, and they're just outstanding in what they do. And you could substitute the word for what they do and bring in advice or our industry and substitute that word, and that's what we're learning. And so I think that the thing is, it's about trying to be as good as you can. And I think that's really important, being as good as you can, not as good as someone else. And it's not arrogance. We don't benchmark ourselves against anyone else in the industry. We think we've got to learn from others that are really outstanding at this outside our industry, and as being as good as we can.
I'm interested to hear, maybe I'll get some ideas for our business, but what are a few of the things that you feel for you guys, the interesting ones that deliver that wow for your clients? You mentioned a couple of things already there, which I think are great, but...
Look, I think the big one is it's about contact. And I think that's, as I said, everybody understands the it, but you've got to give the wow. And you cannot be in contact with clients enough. And I'm just always surprised that when you, just a little thing, which I think just recently we contacted every fund manager and we wanted to know not just their exposures, but what as an organisation their attitude was to Russia. And we wanted a statement from the organisations as what your attitude was to Russia. And we told clients we'd done this. The feedback we got from our clients just by replied emails was incredible. I'd say 40% would have replied to us. That they were pleased that's what we did. So that's one of the things, if you look on our website, our saying is wealth without values is simply money. And we don't talk about ethics. We don't talk in the language of ESG, because values is a very important. Ethics, it's judgmental. What's ethical to you may not be ethical to me, vice versa. But so therefore it gets down to personal values. And that's another thing which is part of this. It's, we try and find out our clients' values, what these values are, and we try to make sure that we are running the money in line with what those values are.
Okay. And practically, how do you do that? Because I know for us that over time, you get a sense of our clients' values and the things that they think are important through building relationships with them. I have found, and one of the things that we've considered but haven't implemented in the business is doing more of that at the front end. And our thinking at that time was that there's always so much going on, especially early days. We're a heavily new business focused firm that they're time poor people, and they're trying to do the budgets and pull together the share plans and the vesting schedules and all of these things that can sometimes in themselves be overwhelming. How do you bake that in a way that is consistent with the experience that you want to deliver and works efficiently for your clients?
Well, 9 years ago, we said tobacco kills people. So we wouldn't allow any fund manager that, and this was an issue in global equity portfolios. If you think back 9 years ago, there were some really good performing funds that had tobacco in them, and back then try and find an EM fund that didn't have tobacco as well. We did find one. And therefore we said, look, we're just not, we took a position as a firm and we told our clients that, so they understood that. Likewise, what we've said with Russia, and to be honest, we'll probably have to take one fund manager off our list because of their response. Likewise, if they've got individuals, and that's really difficult. Like I hear you, like one guy said to us he didn't want to invest in sugar. And now, Coke has sugar. Coke bonds, for instance, in credit funds, it would be in there. His view was sugar is more addictive than heroin. So, we've got to, we've had to adjust to those sort of things and those particular values of clients. And it is difficult, but it's amazing. People, and it's not age-based either. Like, the thing I think that shocked us on this is one morning we saw a client who's sold an asset, and he and his wife were in their 30s and realised a lot of money. And then that afternoon we saw a couple in their 70s, in their late 70s, and they both wanted, they both had what I would call a value-oriented stream that they wanted overlaid on their portfolio. Luckily, very simple, luckily quite vanilla, but this isn't age-based either. I think that it is just as important for the elderly as they're thinking of grandchildren and things like that as it is to the younger people.
Yeah, I think that the family builders, it brings it more into focus, and we tend to work more with the accumulated clients that are in that younger space. But I would say across our entire book and the people that we talk to, we often talk to the parents of our clients as well. It's the same deal. And I was just at a conference last week all around ESG investing, and I think the stats show us that it's all on the rise, and something that I think will come more into focus. So in my view, it's great to see.
Well, back in 2016, I think it was, I used to go to, I'm going back to it this year, conference in Europe called Fund Forum International, and I kept telling lots of people about it, and no one else goes to it. There's 1,600 people there. So if you're going to get COVID, that's where you'll get it. But and there, just to hear that trend of ESG, from 6 years ago, and the first time I went to this conference, there was probably 40, 50 people on ESG in the room. The next, within 2 years, it was a major stream, and you just knew this was coming. So we all went and completed the UNPRI Essentials, which I highly recommend people to do, and gives you a really good understanding of that space.
Yeah, it's great. And it's been interesting. I actually chatted to a bunch of people putting together some content around ethical investing not too long ago, and talking to economists about how the flows of capital and like the cost of capital for what you'd consider unsustainable or non-sustainable, I don't know the right term there with that, but other companies. And I think we're actually seeing this in the listed space, that there are a lot of companies that are divesting assets which do not tick the sustainable box, or being, in some cases aggressively pursued to be pushed out of spaces like we're seeing with AGL at the moment. And I think it just naturally makes sense that I think even if it was selfish interest from the fund managers, that you reach a point where that cost of capital and it sort of skews out, that the majority of portfolios are going to be more sustainably focused, which I think as someone that's hopefully got a few more years to live on the planet, that is a good thing for how the world works. Will, how do you see the client experience is obviously broad and goes into every sort of element of what you do. How linked do you see that to what your actual service offering is, and do the two go hand in hand, or do they move in lockstep, or what is the influence and crossover there?
So the DNA of our firm we refer to as the HWP way, and it is lockstep. The whole experience it's integrated and is part of the process on how we look after a client. And, it is absolutely crucial. And one of the big learnings as well is, because shit happens, right? Mistakes will happen. And the one learning that we got from Four Seasons on this is the recovery is the best way to reinforce your value proposition. So when you make a mistake, it's about recovering that immediately and communicating to the client, and that is part of your DNA, and that is how you can reinforce that value proposition. So it even goes down to that. It is everything. It's how we communicate. It's how we serve. Well, it is the service element. Even down to the quarterly reports. We're changing portfolios a little bit at the moment. It's not just about we recommend this, we recommend that. There's a detailed explanation as to why.
Yes, that makes sense. And what it sounds like, though, from what you mentioned, that you've talked to a number of companies that are known for providing an exceptional client experience, and it sounds like that's like an ongoing, something that gets ongoing focus in your business. Do you have or what is the approach that you take to, refining and improving what you're doing over time?
Yeah, we're always looking. There's that saying, if you stand still, you go backwards. So, and we're always looking to what is this we think is right for us as well. So, look, I can't remember the name of the book, but I remember, probably 4 or 5 years ago, there was that book published on Mercedes-Benz and their whole service proposition. I read it, wasn't for us. So, next. And and nothing against it. It just wasn't us. And that's why I thought, wow, when we came across Mila, and I thought, and got talking to them, and the way that, that theirs is an experience, and it's an incredible experience, because guess what? They want to sell another fridge that's worth 25 grand down the track to those same people. And if you just sell them the fridge and there's no experience around that, it's not worth the $25,000, is it? Yeah, they claim that it can keep a cut avocado fresh for 2 weeks or something.
How much do avocados cost again?
Yeah, $1. So I think that it is about an experience, and it's about linking with the brand and an identity with the brand, and getting the client then to identify with that brand and be proud of where they are with that brand. And you need to talk about and position that brand. So that's why I find, I look a lot of what other firms do, especially offshore, and we've got some great relationships in the UK and Europe. And I laugh, there's a couple of the European firms, if they had cameras in their meeting room and see what I do when I go into the meeting, I take photos of everything. I take photos of the meeting room and how it looks. They bring you a cup of coffee. It's got that little bit of chocolate. Guess what? I've ripped off that little bit of chocolate. So we have copied a lot, and copy is the best form of flattery. And I'm shameless in it, in the things that I've observed, and I think that is fantastic. And they're the little things that matter. Going to a lunch and seeing the menu. The menu was taken by me. I am a shameless copier of what I think are fantastic things, and that's what we've done.
Well, look, there's no point reinventing the wheel, right? If you've got something that works, then it works. But I think that every business is different. So as you say, that some ideas are not for you, or some elements of ideas are not for you as well. So I think you've got to figure out what works for the business, your team, your clients, the outcomes that you want to work, and then you can take that chocolate from there and that menu from there, and leave some of the others that don't. Will, I'm keen to change gears a little bit and chat about the growth and drivers of that growth in your business. You mentioned that you've grown a team of 10, and sounds like solid client base, enviable stats around new business client numbers and the growth around that. What have been the biggest drivers, would you say, of that growth?
Well, I think that it's all about stages, and you've got to, first of all, if anyone's in the early stages of their business, you need to go and establish referral partners and broad referral partners. The second thing, you've got to get your brand out there, and you've got to build that brand, and that's what we did. And again, we were quite shameless in the way we used media. But then I write for The Australian, when that's now once a month. That originally was once a fortnight. We've cut that back, and you've got to learn. The one thing which everyone says to you, when you start a business, is you've got to learn to say no with what is not right for you. And of course, when you're looking for revenue, you never do. And everyone makes that mistake, and we made that mistake. But guess what? You've got to learn to say no. And I think that's a really important thing, and we've looked at, even if a client is borderline, so technically is a sophisticated investor, but really they're looking borderline. We refer them on to other retail firms, and we've got some relationships with other retail firms that we refer them on to, and those clients are better suited to those firms. Likewise, if they're wanting a heavy, what I would call financial planning experience, that's not us. We're a wealth manager. We're very good at running money. And again, we would refer them on to another firm where we think they're going to do a far better job than us. So it is and when we track everything. So we use Trello. So if anyone that doesn't, use Trello, electronic whiteboards. We map everything, every referral that comes in, every conversion, every loss, when we refer on. And so we've got all the stats and we assess that. And that's a really, really important thing. And the other thing is every year we sit down, we have a 5-year strategic plan. We're reviewing that on a 1-year basis with 1-year tactics, because it always amazes me when you go to industry conferences and people say, so who here's got a business plan or strategic plan, and how few hands go up in the room. If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. So use, Trello's free. And I think there's all these things that are there, but again, you need to track all these things so it's part of, so you can not have part of that strategic and tactical tilts of where you're going.
Yeah, and I think that for us, you're helping your clients with their wealth management, they have that clarity in the plan that gives them confidence that what they're doing is the right thing. Yeah. I know for us, we've been we use a number of business coaching programs, but one of the things that we do now is we do that for 4 months. Every 4 months, we're doing the business plan, and it gives you that confidence and peace of mind, which is the same thing that we do for our clients. So it doesn't have to be set in stone like our wealth management plans or our financial plans for our clients aren't set in stone either. But knowing that you've got something that you're clear on where you're headed and happy with those outcomes gives you peace of mind. But like with clients, I think sometimes the simple things are the things that are easy to let slip.
I agree.
As well. Will, you mentioned referral partners and referral relationships in there. I've got to put my hand up here and say that it's something that we have never really done particularly well. We do have some great partners now that I've collected over time, businesses that have aligned values that we know can deliver great service. But I also know with those clients, and I've actually been chatting to those partners of ours over the last little bit to say, what could we be doing to help ultimately to get in front of more of your clients? What would be your tips there around, how do you build those relationships and set them up for success, but ultimately to ensure that you're getting the outcomes that you want from that in terms of talking to more people that are ideal clients for your business?
So there's two things. There's existing clients, which I'll get onto later, but then there's external referral partners. So we have the worst thing you can do is have a broad list. So, in accountants have 2 or 3, but make sure they fit, in different areas. Likewise, with divorce lawyers, we've got 2, because sometimes there can be a conflict naturally.
Yeah.
Real estate agents, we've got only 1. And I put it to them, life is a 2-way street, is what I say to them. And, we're going to refer to you. And I always try to make sure we're first out of the cab. And if they don't refer back, guess what? They're off. And there's plenty of other accountants, real estate agents, divorce lawyers out there. So what you're wanting to do is establish, and you want to ensure that you're building a relationship, and it's long term, and then it's natural if 2-way. But you've got to be quite blunt about it up front. Life is a 2-way street, and if they feel indebted to you because you're out of the box first of all, that's a good way to start. But I'd follow up. You've got to be blunt. The second thing then is with existing clients. We use an annual NPS survey. So like last year, our NPS, it's on our website, it was about 86, I think. So, which is a great result. And we're quite shocked at how high it was. But what you do is if someone gives you a 9 or 10, and we're okay at this, we're not great at it. They've said you're a 9 or a 10, contact them and thank you. We really appreciate it. If you know of anybody that, and just ask them for for referrals. We've got better at it, and we've got a lot better at it, but we've still got a long way to go. And I think we were pretty crappy at first with those asking people for referrals.
Yeah, I love that. It's it can get lost in the moment, but it makes sense from a targeting perspective in that that you've got people that are stoked. I think that's one thing that we're getting about 1/3 of our clients from client referrals, and the question that we ask, which I've found to be a really easy way and effective way to ask for referrals, is to say to clients, hey, you've got a ton of value. Like, it seems like you're really happy. You got some great results. We're happy with the results that you're getting. If you were us and you wanted to talk to more people like you, what would you do? And then it actually makes them think, as opposed to saying like, oh, you just want to get a just a referral, let me think about a referral. And I found that does, then it's like they might go, oh, I'll think about that, but then the referrals tend to flow afterwards. So I like that NPS targeting though, because we do that with our clients. So I might have to think about that to build that into our process as well. And yeah, I think they ultimately end up being your biggest fans. What is the split if you know off the top of your head in terms of where your new clients are coming from?
I'd say now 50% are coming from existing clients. So, the firm's got my name on it. So if we go back even 5 years ago, it was probably 80% were sort of people that had a relationship with me. That's probably now 30-40%. So it's halved at least, and it's well under 50%. And then, of course, we've got some good referral partners where that's continuing to flow. So I think that's also a sign of a business that's getting a little bit more mature. We're nearly completed our 9th year, and I think that's also really something I was very conscious of 5 years ago, and I'm really pleased to see that that's got well below 50% now. And we've also got client referrals would be probably 50%.
That's great. Like I say, sometimes the simple things are the ones that we overlook, but often the most effective. Mate, thank you so much for sharing your insights. My last question for you is that if you could go back to your yourself 9 years ago, you just hung that shingle and give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
Be stricter about saying no. Everyone said to us, make sure this is the type of client, be really strong about it. Everyone gave me that advice, and of course you don't listen to it. And, we've lost very few clients over the years, but the ones we have, we should never have taken on.
I love it. Wise words there for sure. Will, mate, thanks again. Really appreciate you sharing your story.
Welcome, Ben.
Thanks, team.